Have you ever been in a crowded place? Maybe a cafe buzzing with conversation, a busy train station, or even a party where everyone seems to know someone, and instead of feeling overwhelmed, you feel strangely calm, not excited, not energized in the typical social way, but grounded, comfortable, almost at peace. And maybe you've wondered, why do I actually like this? Because according to what most people say, you're supposed to either love social interaction or avoid crowds altogether. You're either the life of the party or the one who stays home. There's no in-between. But you stand in the middle of the noise and feel completely fine being alone. Let me show you what's really going on in your brain. Imagine this. You walk into a crowded coffee shop. People are talking, typing, laughing. Cups clink. Music hums softly in the background. You order your drink, sit down in the corner, and just exist. You're not talking to anyone. You're not trying to impress anyone. You're not even on your phone much. And yet, you don't feel lonely. In fact, you might feel more comfortable there than sitting alone in complete silence at home. That's not random. That's psychology. Your brain is doing something fascinating here. It's balancing two core human needs at the same time: connection and autonomy. See, humans are wired for connection. That's basic neuroscience. Studies in social psychology show that even the presence of other people, without direct interaction, can reduce feelings of isolation. It's called ambient belonging. Just being around others signals to your brain. You're part of something. You're not alone in the world. But at the same time, your brain also craves independence, space, control over your own thoughts. And most environments force you to choose one or the other. When you're alone at home, you get autonomy, but you might lack that subtle sense of connection. When you're deeply social, you get connection, but you lose some of that inner space. But being alone in a crowd, that's the sweet spot. It's like sitting at the edge of a party instead of being in the center of it. You get the warmth without the pressure, the presence without the performance. And for certain personalities, that's incredibly rewarding. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. People who enjoy being alone in crowds often have a heightened level of internal awareness. Their attention naturally turns inward. They think more. They observe more. They process more. So when they're in a completely silent environment, their mind can actually become too loud. You know that feeling? When it's so quiet that your thoughts start echoing. You replay conversations. You analyze things you said 3 years ago. You start thinking about everything at once. Silence doesn't always equal peace. But add a gentle layer of external noise, a crowd, a cafe, a city street, and suddenly your brain has something to anchor itself to. Not enough to distract you, but just enough to soften the intensity of your inner world. It's like your thoughts are waves, and the background noise becomes the shoreline that keeps them from crashing too hard. That's why many writers, thinkers, and creatives throughout history have preferred busy environments. Not because they wanted to socialize, but because they needed that balance between inner depth and outer stimulation. Now think about this. When you're alone in a crowd, there's no expectation. No one is asking you questions. No one is waiting for you to respond. No one is evaluating you. You're invisible in the best possible way, and that invisibility creates psychological safety. There's actually research suggesting that people behave more authentically when they feel unobserved or unjudged. In a crowd, paradoxically, you're both seen and unseen at the same time. You're part of the environment, but not the focus of it. That gives your mind permission to relax. You don't have to perform. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't even have to be interesting. You just get to be. And for many people, that's incredibly rare. Now, some might say, isn't that just introversion? Not exactly. Introversion is often misunderstood as simply liking to be alone. But what we're talking about here is more nuanced. It's not about avoiding people. It's about choosing a specific kind of interaction with the world. You're not rejecting connection. You're redefining it. Instead of direct conversation, you connect through observation, through presence, through shared space. You watch how people interact. You notice small details, the way someone laughs, the way someone pauses before speaking, the rhythm of conversations around you. You become a quiet participant in the human experience. And there's something deeply human about that. In fact, from an evolutionary perspective, this kind of behavior might have been incredibly useful. Early humans needed individuals who could observe group dynamics without constantly engaging, people who could read the room, sense subtle changes, and understand others without needing to dominate the conversation. So if you've ever felt like the quiet observer in a crowded room, that's not a weakness. That's a skill. But of course, it doesn't always feel that way. Sometimes you might look around and think, why am I not like them? Why don't I want to jump into conversations or be the center of attention? And that's where the misunderstanding begins. Because the world often rewards visibility, loudness, constant interaction. But your strength lies in something else: depth. You don't need constant stimulation from others because your inner world is already rich. You don't chase every conversation because you're selective about what actually matters to you. And when you do connect with someone, it's often more meaningful because you've been observing, processing, understanding. You're not just reacting, you're responding. Now here's something you might not expect. People who enjoy being alone in crowds often have a unique relationship with loneliness. They don't fear being alone in the traditional sense, but they can still feel disconnected, even when surrounded by people. And that's because what they seek isn't just presence, it's resonance. It's not about being around others. It's about feeling understood. So while a crowd can provide comfort, it doesn't always replace deeper connection. And that's okay, because these two needs don't cancel each other out. They complement each other. The crowd gives you space to exist without pressure, and deeper relationships give you moments of true connection. You don't have to choose one over the other. You're allowed to enjoy both. Now let's go back to that image, you, sitting alone in a crowded place, watching, thinking, just being. What if that's not something to question, but something to understand? What if your brain has simply found a way to balance complexity, to stay connected without losing yourself, to be part of the world, without being overwhelmed by it? Because in a world that constantly pushes you to be louder, faster, more visible, there's something quietly powerful about someone who can sit in the middle of it all and feel completely at ease. So the next time you find yourself alone in a crowd, don't rush to fill the silence. Don't feel like you're missing out. Look around. Notice how your mind settles, how your thoughts flow more gently, how you can exist without needing to prove anything. That's not emptiness. That's alignment. And maybe, just maybe, that's your way of being human. If this felt a little too familiar, you're not the only one. I'd love to know, have you ever felt more comfortable alone in a crowd than completely by yourself?